11, today's State Department briefing. After that, President Clinton on humanitarian aid for ethnic Albanian refugees in the Balkans.
Sergei Baburin, head of the Russian Duma delegation visiting Belgrade, met with the representatives of the Serbian government today. Russia condemns NATO aggression against Yugoslavia, a sovereign country, demands that it be immediately stopped. Russian Federation is ready to provide humanitarian and every other assistance to Yugoslavia. In the meeting between Minister of Defense of Yugoslavia Pavle Bulatovic and the Russian Duma delegation and Belarus Parliament delegation, it was concluded that Russia and Belarus are prepared to provide military assistance to our country, which will be rapid and swift. At the request of Russia to turn over to Russian military institutions parts of the U.S. F-117 plane, which was shot down over Yugoslavia, Minister Bulatovic stated that Yugoslavia was willing to do that. In a meeting with the president of the Serbian parliament, Dragan Tomic, Russian delegation informed them on specific steps taken by the Russian Federation and Belarus to stop the aggression, provide assistance to our people. Russian delegation warned that criminal attacks must be stopped and their perpetrators punished. Delegation of the Russian Federation Duma and Belarus Parliament toured today Sloboda factory in Chachak, which enemy bombed with 10 missiles a few nights ago. Russian and Belarus legislators were able to see that this is not a military facility, but a factory that produces household appliances. This factory used to export to Russia 50,000 cooking ranges annually. Vice President of the Russian Duma, Sergei Baburin, stated that the goal of NATO is clear: to destroy economic capabilities of Yugoslavia, intimidate its population. Defense Committee Chairman of the Russian Federation Duma, General Roman Papkovich, said that Yugoslavia must be provided military and technical assistance for defense purposes. Yugoslavia did not pose a threat to anyone, and the duty of all UN members is to help the country that has been attacked. Legislator Vladimir Voroshnikov stated that the people of Belarus will always support Yugoslav citizens. President of Serbian Parliament met today with a delegation of Movement for Freedom and Support from Crete, led by Yanis Papadakis, a university professor. President of the Parliament thanked on behalf of Serbian Yugoslav people for the support and solidarity expressed by Greek people in our just struggle for defending our dignity against the aggressor. People of Greece have provided generous assistance in our struggle for peaceful life of all of the citizens. Members of the delegation from Crete stated that in their country there are daily protests caused by NATO aggression against Yugoslavia. Head of Greek delegation, Professor Papadakis, expressed an undivided support and solidarity for Yugoslav people and condemned everybody who wishes to impose war in this region. This is why all of us have to raise our voices against this brutal aggression and must not allow a small but proud nation like the Serbian one to suffer. The delegation stated that they came to our country to see specific needs for humanitarian assistance that this movement wishes to provide to Serbia and Yugoslavia. Russia continues with its effort to stop aggression against Yugoslavia and find political and peaceful resolution to the crisis. To that end, Russia called for a meeting of G8 foreign ministers. In Moscow, newly independent states openly stated that they were committed to ending aggression against Yugoslavia and declared their intention to contribute to the peaceful resolution of the Kosovo crisis. President of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, ordered his foreign minister to urgently call for a meeting of the foreign ministers of G8 countries in order to find a peaceful resolution to the crisis caused by NATO aggression. Yeltsin stated that despite Russia's active efforts, NATO aggression unfortunately was expanding. Such escalation threatened to turn into a great misery not only for Europe. Russia must not allow this. Kosovo problem can and must be solved at the negotiating table. Primakov saw that at his meeting with President Milosevic. Every day brings new victims and tragedies, and this is why Russia has to act urgently. At the Moscow summit, the presidents of 12 members of newly independent states strongly condemned aggression against Yugoslavia. Boris Yeltsin stated that newly independent states declared their readiness to assist in finding a peaceful resolution and restarting of the political process to solve the problem in Kosovo. All heads of states expressed their support to end bloodshed in Yugoslavia and their willingness to contribute to the peaceful and just resolution. Primakov was also present at this meeting, and he was going to inform everybody about the meetings that took place in Belgrade. President of Belarus, Lukashenko, stressed that Belgrade clearly declared its willingness to use political methods in finding solution to this conflict. Belarus and Russia, stressed Lukashenko, coordinate their actions and are entirely in agreement that an aggression against independent Yugoslavia is completely unacceptable. The fire in the Balkans must be put out immediately, especially since Yugoslav leadership is ready for a constructive dialogue. Minsk was ready to provide any needed assistance. Russian Foreign Minister Igor Ivanov stated that Russia was going to take all steps necessary in order to find a peaceful resolution to the crisis. But he stated that NATO aggression has ruined Rambouillet Agreement. The West should not have any delusions that after bombing and all the evil that NATO has inflicted, there can be any talk of continuing the discussions on the old positions. Everything achieved in Rambouillet has been erased now, and the situation demands that the political process be continued, but on an entirely different basis, which could yield results. Russian reconnaissance ship is on its way to Mediterranean. Soon it will be joined by 6 more ships from the Black Sea Fleet. In Moscow, it was officially stated that Russian army assessed that NATO lost about 20 planes, 10 combat planes, 3 helicopters, and several unmanned crafts. Yugoslav forces also shot down 40 cruise missiles launched from the ships in Adriatic Sea. Meeting between President Milosevic and Rugova was the topic of the day in Russian media as a proof that the agreement on political resolution was possible without NATO participation. It was stated that since Milosevic and Rugova sat next to each other talking incessantly, it meant that they did not need an interpreter and they talked in Serbian. If that was the case, the leaders of Serbs and Albanians did not need an intermediary. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia stated in Moscow that Ibrahim Rugova, on his own initiative, came to Belgrade in order to meet with Slobodan Milosevic. Ivanov stated that nobody forced Rugova to make that step. He appealed to Washington and the West on March 31st to stop the destruction of Kosovo villages. Rugova denied that he was wounded or that his house was burned. Ivanov also added that true Kosovo Albanians do not want to secede from Yugoslavia and they are ready to live in a unified country with a full recognition of their rights. Air raids on Yugoslavia are conducted almost exclusively by U.S. planes, regardless of the incessant attempts to portray bombing as a collective action. NATO attacks, 90% of attacks are performed by U.S. planes and warships. Last night, for the first time, Norwegian planes participated in the air raid. Ivanov also stated that reports stating that Russia provides air defense assistance to Yugoslavia are ludicrous. It is just an attempt to justify NATO troubles in their attacks. NATO planes are being shot down by Yugoslav air defense. This was stated by Russian Russian Foreign Minister Ivanov. Ministry for Foreign Affairs in Belgrade held a briefing for ambassadors, heads of diplomatic missions, and representatives of international organizations accredited in Belgrade on consequences of NATO aggression in Yugoslavia. It was heard at the briefing that criminal aggression against Yugoslavia, who is a founding member of United Nations and a founder of the League of Non-Aligned Countries, was an attempt to create a precedent by United States through violating international law and UN Charter in order to intimidate all countries who behave or think differently than United States wish. This is a threat to each country that has an independent policy and protects its legitimate state and national interests. For the first time after the Second World War, an open act of aggression was committed in Europe. The strongest, powerful military alliance is directly cooperating with a terrorist organization in an attack against a sovereign country. Aggressors blocked the Security Council as a body designed to protect the peace, which can have long-term consequences for peace and stability in the world. It was stated that aggressor caused a humanitarian catastrophe in order to justify the continuation of the aggression and its consequences. Humanitarian catastrophe is produced by bombing and will be stopped only once the bombing stops. NATO mostly targets civilian facilities, which proves genocidal nature of this aggression. It was stated that with all of the available means, Yugoslavia will protect itself from the aggressor. We will continue to defend territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country, and by doing that, we also defend international law, UN Charter, and democracy in international relations. The citizens and the unity are completely united on this issue. Law and the justice are on the side of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia continues to state that the political solution guaranteeing full equality to all nationalities living in Kosovo is the only just solution. Yugoslavia appealed to all countries and all international organizations to condemn this aggression and request its immediate termination. Diplomats listened carefully to Yugoslav positions, which will be reiterated to their governments. Protests against NATO aggression on Yugoslavia are carrying out throughout the world. These protests demand immediate termination of this aggression. Right now, we will go live to Thessaloniki to the protest meeting that is taking place there. Thessaloniki is an epicenter of protest in Greece against NATO air attack on Yugoslavia that is going on for 10 days now. Several 100,000 citizens of northern Greece gathered at this fundraising concert, which is raising funds for the victims, all victims of NATO aggression against Yugoslavia. A large number of Greek bands and singers are participating in this concert, as well as Goran Bregovic. This concert will be broadcast by Radio Television Serbia and majority of Greek broadcasting stations. Today in Greece, so far the largest protesting took place to protest the brutal NATO aggression against Yugoslavia. Protesters demanded immediate termination of bombing of the friendly Yugoslav people. In accordance with yesterday's decision of the General Workers' Union of Greece, the country went on general strike from 1 to 3 p.m. today, which means that the country came to a halt for 2 hours. Public transport stopped, the shops were closed, government institutions, banks and schools were open only until 1 o'clock due to this open protest against the aggression that is taking place in Yugoslavia. To the brave people of Serbia and Yugoslavia, their military and leadership, we are expressing our strong support in their just struggle. This was the message from the citizens of Voditelji in Macedonia against a mass protest against NATO aggression. What has been done to Yugoslavia and Serbia is the worst aggression in this world. The Western countries and their people should be ashamed of the criminal acts of their military which are being carried out in Yugoslavia. Serbian and other people living in Yugoslavia will not give up. They will fight for their freedom and their rights. We support you with all of our hearts and souls. Today in Skopje there is also a large anti-war gathering against NATO and war. In Paris, demonstrations were organized again. Many political parties, non-governmental organizations and workers' unions participated in this protest. They requested an immediate ending to the aggression and a peaceful resolution to the crisis. About 20,000 participants were in these protests. Leader of French communists, Robert E., was at the head of the protesting march carrying a sign that said Yugoslavia is for a long-term peace, stop the war and start the negotiations. At least 5,000 protesters went through the city of New York carrying slogans supporting Serbs in Yugoslavia, which are subjected to NATO aggression. Stop the war, stop bombing was heard at the Times Square where the protest ended. The participants continuously expressed their outrage over this aggression. They carried a target symbol as a way of demonstrating their solidarity with the people of Yugoslavia. Protests in Vienna were carried again last night in that city. Speeches were given by members of Austria's NGOs that openly condemned NATO aggression. They stated that NATO provoked a humanitarian catastrophe and forced the citizens of Kosovo to leave their homeland. In Copenhagen, several thousands of people gathered to raise their voice against NATO aggression. At the beginning of the protest, they released several hundred doves who are a symbol of peace. Communist Party of India, in criticizing NATO aggression, stated that it took 50 years for the world to finally realize that NATO was not a defense organization, but an alliance created to accomplish U.S. interest in Europe and the world. Indian Communist Party organized demonstrations in front of American Cultural Center in Delhi, shouting slogans against NATO, war, and Clinton. We are still sending a message of peace through this song. Belgrade was once again a capital of all those who are not afraid to sing when faced with a difficult situation. Those who value their freedom cannot be defeated, was the message of the protest. They are being shot down from Srem, Požega to other places in our country. This is a sign for them that they need to go back to their homes. Nobody called them. They need to leave our territory. What was yesterday heard by our president and commander-in-chief Slobodan Milošević is that those who value their freedom can never lose a single war. We shall persevere until the final victory. Today we gathered at this magnificent popular meeting to send a message to our brothers in Montenegro that all of those who ordered to Montenegrins to work instead of defend their country shall be damned, and all of those Montenegrins who obey those orders will end on the trash pile of history. Down with the traitors! Long live Serbia! Long live Yugoslavia! Long live Slobodan Milošević! Serbia is grateful for any assistance provided to it, but Serbia will defend itself alone. We have done it through the centuries, and we shall do it again today. Long live Serbia. Long live Yugoslavia. Long live Kosovo. Today, again at Podgorica, another protest meeting was held. The citizens expressed their protest against NATO aggression. Long live equal Serbia and Montenegro in Yugoslavia. As in the previous days, this was a peaceful protest with many anti-war slogans and banners that had a basic message against NATO aggression and the bombardments that their forces are carrying out. Citizens expressed full support to the Yugoslav army. Expressing their protest against NATO aggression against Yugoslavia, citizens of Pljevlje in Montenegro staged fourth continuous protest meeting. More than 10,000 people of this area sent a message to Clinton's war machine that Serbia and Yugoslavia will live forever. Long live Yugoslavia, long live Serbia and Montenegro with Kosovo in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia will not give up. Yugoslavia is not for sale. Their loads of death only manage to unite us even more. We are determined to protect the independence of our country, freedom of our country, and we are determined to honor the graves of our glorious ancestors. Their protest against aggression and its brutality, the citizens of Pljevlje will continue to express every day. The workers of Rakovica factory raised their voice against fascist NATO aggression. The protest was organized at noon in front of the factory, which was one of the first targets hit by enemy. The workers from the local neighboring factories joined the protest of Rakovica workers. The central gathering was held in front of the administrative building. Almost all of the workers who held speeches at the rally expressed their outrage at this aggression carrying out against schools, hospitals, factories in the small country that has not attacked anyone and that is fighting for its freedom. We, the workers of Rakovica, are determined to fight against the war through our work. However, we are always ready to take up arms in order to defend our homeland. This protest gathering demonstrated unity of the workers and the whole country in their determination to protect the independence of Yugoslavia. We will protect our country at any cost. Today, a magnificent procession of people headed toward the bridge in Novi Sad. People had sadness in their eyes, but pride in their hearts. I crossed over that bridge I don't know how many thousand times. The bridge is gone, but we are still here. What can we tell them? They can't destroy as much as we can build. Today, a team of CNN reporters came to Novi Sad with their journalist Goran Sadler. This is a broadcasting company that has steadily for 2 days tried to deceive the world that the bridge destroyed in Novi Sad was military and not a civilian facility. In front of the tragic site of the destroyed bridge, Goran Sadler gave a statement to our reporter which was completely different from CNN reports on this monstrous destruction of the bridge. You will hear Goran Sadler's statement first in English, and then you will hear a translation into Serbian.
Civilian infrastructure, and the authorities of Yugoslavia have complained bitterly, condemned this attack as being the first deliberate strike against civilian infrastructure. And as far as, from what I can see here, this is a bridge connecting one side of the town to the other. Why it was attacked, I cannot say. You'd have to ask NATO why they attacked that.
This is a civil infrastructure, and the government of Yugoslavia has condemned this attack. This is the first deliberate attack on a civilian facility. What I could see is that this is a bridge that connected one part of the city to the other, and why it was attacked, I don't know. You'd have to ask NATO that.
That people enjoy taking their leisure time strolling across the bridge. It has a lot of symbolic importance for the people of Novi Sad, and it carries the water pipes for one part of the city from the other part, and that's caused big problems in that respect. As far as any strategic importance, as far as NATO is concerned, I see this as a straightforward bridge that connected one side of the town to the other.
This is a very popular bridge for people that live here. On the weekends, they love to stroll over the bridge in their leisure time. This bridge has a lot of symbolicism to the citizens of Novi Sad. It connected two parts of the cities and also provided the water pipes. Regardless of how important the strategy was or how important this was to NATO, I see that this bridge simply connected two parts of the city. Goran Sadler also talked to Pavle Schlossberger, former president of the Jewish community in Novi Sad. He showed him authentic pictures from World War II depicting the suffering of the citizens of Novi Sad in fascist attack in 1942 near this bridge. Mr. Schlossberger was outraged that a shadow of fascism once again loomed over Novi Sad and our country.
Today in the